Okay, we're going to try this for a third time. Welcome to the Planning Commission work session meeting. We have one item on our agenda for tonight. I think Jake is actually going to talk to us a little bit, but first we are going to have some training from Gary about some of the authority that the commission possesses. And I have some questions about timing too, and when we can exercise that authority. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say. So with that, we will turn the time over to Gary.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate that. First, I want to just say how grateful I am to be with this man here. John and I started many, many years ago when I was a brand new graduate law student down. They actually employed me at West Valley City as a planner. And so I spent the first couple of years of my profession as a lawyer as a planner under John's tutelage, and then shifted to planner attorney is what I ended up in being. And that's where I got my feet wet on planning was years and years ago. I won't tell you how many years ago, but it was so long ago that his beard was black at the time. Or did you even have a beard?
I did. It was red, actually.
It was red.
See,
That's
the
right.
memory's going.
That's right. That's right. And the hair was red. I
And
remember.
I'll just say, we always wore these ties that were about this wide.
And square at the bottom.
Yeah.
So I used to kid planners that they were always square ties and they always wore the fuzzy shoes. There, Jake, take a look. It's
Sort of fuzzy.
it's a suede shoe. They always wear suede shoes.
Is this good enough?
That's really close. And look at John's.
It's anchors,
And
man.
I've almost
Go
been
Nike.
converted because I've got my hay boots on. So
There you go.
Anyway.
yeah, they're suede, I guarantee. Anyway, John has a wealth of knowledge, and as does Jake, and I appreciate their being here. Appreciate what you do as a planning commission, because this is a tough job. Some of you are new, and some of you have had a lot of experience, been here over the years. And what I'm going to tell you tonight is going to sound kind of like what you heard in the beginning of the meeting, where you heard Aaron's voice over and over again. And we all laughed. And well, the attorney's voice over and over again is something you're going to hear throughout your career as a planning commissioner, because you're supposed to have 4 hours of training every year. And this year they said one of those has to be ethics, and you've already been trained in ethics. We already had a class in ethics. And so that's good. We'll go over a couple of things tonight, but mainly what I'd like to do is get to questions that you might have. But before I do, I'm going to go ahead and hand out, and I'm going to be completely upfront with you. AI took what I had put into it and put it into a perfect document. It always does. So, but I'm going to hand this out. This is kind of a cheat sheet for planning commissioners, and I'll hand it out. And it's just a 1-page front and back. It kind of goes over just the basics of your knowledge as a planning commissioner. And what God you consider you down here. And then poor Teresa made copies of your bylaws too, which I'll hand out to you at the end of the meeting. Aaron, you got one short.
You could take one of this one.
Oh, yeah, you can share.
You can share. I took a picture of this. I'm gonna text it to Dave. Dave, I'm gonna text you, or I'll email you a JPEG of it.
Okay, first, what I'd like to do is maybe just, you've had some training. We've talked about a couple things. We've talked about, if you take a look down at your rules of engagement list, we've talked about legislative and administrative decisions. And so one of the major rules of thumb is ask if the decision you're making is a legislative decision or administrative decision. Legislative, of course, is a policy decision that you're going to actually advise the council on, because you are the advising body for the city council when it comes to legislative issues, land use legislative issues. The administrative issues are essentially applying the law to a fact situation that comes in before you. An application comes in, and your job is to take all these bunch of laws that have been passed by the city council, recommended by you, or maybe your predecessors, and you've got to apply that then to whatever fact situation comes in, subdivision, a site plan for a commercial development, MRU, the mixed use development, all of those things essentially are tied to an ordinance of some sort. But one of the questions that came up recently in one of our administrative meetings is how much flexibility do you have when it comes to you? What can you do? In the old days, we used to just go ahead and I'd get my pen ready and I'd write down all the things the Planning Commission wanted on their wish list for this development. And the developers up at the legislature over the last, I'd say about 10 years, have whittled away at that. And quite frankly, in my opinion, have whittled away at the authority of local governments to do what they do best, which is they're closest to the people and they listen to the people and they make ordinances, and those ordinances then are applied in their cities. But the state has said, we don't like the ordinances that you're making in some situations, or we don't like your densities, or we don't like the size of your streets, or we don't like the fact that you don't have a landing out back of your home. I mean, that's how specific they've gotten in their regulation of cities and towns. Now, there's two cases that are really, really important, and two cases that we hope never to hear up at the legislature, because if there's ever a debate on those two, it's probably going to be one of those debates that is kind of an all-ending debate for municipal land use law. There are two cases, and I won't tell you the facts of the cases or anything about it, but out of one case came a thing called the Dillon Rule, and out of another case, a Utah case, came a thing called the Hutchinson Rule. Those two are rules of law. And the Dillon Rule says that if the legislature doesn't tell you you can do it, you can't do it. Okay? And so there are several states, Dillon Rule states, in fact, many Dillon Rule states, where the local legislatures literally have to look to the state law to determine whether or not you can approve a subdivision or not, because they do all of that stuff for you. Everything that you do is regulated by state code. And if you want to change something that you do at the local level, you have to go back up to the state to get that changed. That's called the Dillon Rule. And we have fought every single year up at the legislature to stay away from the Dillon Rule, to never have that invoked in the state of Utah. The other case is called the Hutchinson case. And the Hutchinson Rule is just the opposite of the Dillon Rule. It says kind of like what's supposed to happen on a federal level to the state level here, that if we don't regulate it at the federal level, the states have all the authority to do it, whatever we don't regulate at the federal level. Well, the same thing with the Hutchinson Rule. If the state hasn't restricted you from doing something, you can do it, is what they've said. Now, they've pared that back in some areas. Like, for example, in the area of the design of buildings in residential zones. A couple of years ago, about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, they said, we don't want the Planning Commission and the city councils to be dealing with issues like whether the garage is in the front or the back, whether the front is landscaped or the back is landscaped or not, what the type of brick is and facade on the place is. We don't want you dealing with that in subdivision laws. So they have restricted us in some areas. But for the most part, our land use code is what they call a enabling act. It enables us to create laws to apply to subdivisions or to apply to commercial uses, that type of thing. So the question is, how much flexibility do you still have under state law? They've restricted a lot of what you do as a planning commission, but you are really the body that makes most of the administrative determinations. And the tough part is, what if it's not stated specifically in the law? Because unlike the Dillon Rule states, you haven't caught everything. You don't have every single situation addressed in our ordinance. And so what do you have to do? Do you have to sit back and say, well, because this thing is not addressed in our ordinance, you can do whatever you want? And the answer is no. You still have a lot of flexibility when it comes to making those decisions. Am I hitting, Madam Chair, on some of the questions that you have?
Yeah, I think we're getting there because my question sort of is, first of all, what authority do we have? What right do we have to ask things of a developer? And then also procedurally, at what point would we ask those and how would we go about making those requests or those changes?
Okay. Good questions, both of them. So first of all, how much authority do you have to address, for example, a situation where there's a retaining wall or something, and you want the retaining wall to be a certain color or a certain type or whatever else? Those types of details probably are things that the developer will deal with and that you don't, as long as they meet the requirements, the engineering requirements for the retaining wall, you probably won't address the way that it looks. However, things like snow removal, you have every right to see that the plan and design of a subdivision adequately provides for snow removal. Now, you depend heavily on your planner and you depend heavily on your engineer because they're the experts. That's the reason I say the retaining wall is probably something you wouldn't touch because it's an engineering issue, and once the engineering issue's satisfied, you can't say, well, I really don't like this type of brick up there. I want this type of brick up there. And maybe our engineer is really the one that would dictate that. But when it comes to snow removal, you have the right to say, you know what, where are you going to put the snow? Or
We had an issue with garbage,
mhm.
that there wasn't really a great allowance made for a place to put garbage cans or to make them accessible to the road for pickup.
Yeah, just the last meeting.
Yeah, so what could we do if we're in a meeting like this, we've got that matter before us, we see that this is a concern, what are our options for steps to take at that point?
First of all, the point at which you do it would be when you see it, when it comes before you as a preliminary approval, right?
Okay,
And that's when you get the engineering report and also the planning report. And if those things are covered in there, that's great. But if they're not, you can ask questions about how they will be covered. I don't see any problem at all if you've got a requirement that there be garbage picked up in that development, in you indicating that you like this method of garbage pickup because it doesn't block traffic or it provides for, not an inconvenience to the individuals involved. I mean, those are things that you can deal with. You've got an ordinance in place. It requires garbage pickup, but you don't have how it's done. You can go into how it's done.
so when you say we can go into it, what can we
Address the
do?
issue.
And say, and if they propose a solution that we don't like, I mean, is that grounds to not approve it, to table it,
Good question. So what you would do is whatever you as a group make a decision on regarding that garbage issue or that placement of that garbage can issue would then become a condition of that subdivision approval.
Okay.
And so in addition to Jake's comments and the engineer's comments and maybe the attorney's comments, and the conditions that we impose, that you adopt, whenever you do a subdivision approval, you adopt those. You adopt the engineer's, what he's indicated need to be done. You adopt Jake's standards, whatever needs to be done. And then you have, in addition to that, your comments, your requirements, and you just add that. They would be added to your approval.
and that would just be added as part of the motion?
Yeah.
So,
And those carry the weight of law, by the way.
so continuing on with the garbage thing. So is it practical that we tell the applicant that we suggest something, but we're open to his ideas as to how he's going to meet some of our requirements? In other words, we give them some options? Is that, or do we can't just demand, I guess we could demand,
You could.
but is it more friendly to say, hey, we don't want garbage cans sitting out front? Give us some options. I think we talked about getting some little things to cover up the garbage can. So is it practical just to have a discussion and ask him to come up with some way to meet what we're trying to do?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And oftentimes the developer knows he's had enough experience out there that he can come up with some ideas and present them to you and say, this works, this has worked in one subdivision we were in. If you don't feel that they'll work, you don't have to approve it with those details. I'll tell you the boundaries of the conditions that you impose. The boundaries, the main boundary of the conditions you impose are a thing called exactions. In state law, there's very specific, first of all, it requires that you follow your ordinance. Exactly. But in following your ordinance, there's going to be some questions that are raised that you will have to answer, like the garbage, like the snow removal, like the other things. And when you step over the line, it is things like, well, in addition to that, we would like a park here. Or we would like you to eliminate 4 units and we'll put a little playground here, for the community at Holt so they can enjoy that corner. Or, and you see what's happening now is you're getting into actual costs to the developer that are not related to any ordinance of any sort. And the definition of an exaction is it has to be, first of all, related to a governmental purpose of some sort. So a governmental purpose might be access, road access. It might be snow removal. It might be something that the ordinances of the city have said need to be taken care of. And then it has to be connected to that. And then it has to be roughly proportional to whatever you're asking them to do has to be roughly proportional to the impact that this development is causing. That's the key. Not that the city needs as a whole, but that this development is causing. So we would like you to put in a park that equates to about 4 of your building lots, because the city doesn't have a park in that area. In illegal exaction? Yeah. What about, we would like you to put in a pocket park that services your 52 homes, that reasonably services your 52 homes.
As long as it's within ordinance and.
Sure. Very good, Chris. If it's within ordinance to do that, and it is, their open space is required, is a requirement. What should that open space be? If your ordinance doesn't address it, what should it be? Can you require a pool and a pool house? Would that be excessive, an excessive exaction? If you were the developer, what would you think?
That's excessive.
That's an excessive exaction, right? And so if it doesn't seem reasonable to you or to the developer, it may be something you want, but not something that you can require because of the excessive nature of the thing. So does that help with understanding the flexibility that you have in the ordinance?
That does. Did you have a comment, Ray?
Back to the garbage with that last development. What happened in our planning meeting beforehand, we created that scenario in our mind where we thought it was a problem. When the developer came here, they had a solution, they had an answer for it.
Yeah.
So some of us still think it was a problem, but they had an answer for it that I thought was a feasible answer.
Okay.
And if we hadn't have brought it up, maybe they wouldn't even have done something about it.
They already had it in their plans. They were
I mean, they had an idea what they wanted to do, but if we wouldn't have brought it up, they might have said, well, they didn't ask for garbage. So,
No, I felt like he was shooting from the hip. Like he didn't have that plan in advance.
And on that, so you
already talked to them about it.
you gave us a we're still working it through with them. And we're trying to get the garbage cans back behind in a safe area. We talked about it this week. So you did handle it in one of the possible okay ways, which was checks all the other boxes, approved with this condition, and that condition is handed to the Administrative Land Use Authority before we approve final plans. And so it still is, you don't have to solve the problem then. You can, or you can say, staff, you fix this problem.
But garbage cans need to be addressed.
Yeah, and you could also say, we don't want them in the front. It's ugly, it's
Too
not
arbitrary.
necessarily safe, especially where it's the front of the homes.
Yeah. I mean, and in this case, that's to the developer's benefit as well, because he wants them to be appealing to potential buyers, but
I don't know if you can say,
Not
no,
one thing the city-
everywhere else in town, people can put them in their front yards.
Yes, we
We
could choose that.
Their place else, they can put them in their front yard.
Right,
This is
right.
subdivision.
No, that's good.
Everywhere else in town, you can put garbage on your front yard. There's no restriction on it. So I don't know how you restrict one unit of 20 homes.
You're right. Which is why we ultimately passed it. Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Well, okay, John's raised the issue. He says, does it say it in the subdivision ordinance? And the answer is no. But quite frankly, here's where you come in. All right, even that's one area that's not covered by the ordinance. I think the ordinance is silent as to exactly what it says. But the difficulty that has already been identified by staff is you have 2 garbage cans and you have 12 units or 13, it's 13 units, right? So you would have 26 garbage cans at the bottom of Jenny Lane that would be out in the street. You'd have to empty 26, they'd have to empty 26 garbage cans at the bottom of Jenny Lane. That's a difficult thing. That's something that a safety issue
The traffic problem.
that you really, yeah, that, and we've talked to the city's traffic division. They do feel that would be especially down, it's on a hill.
Yeah.
And you're at the bottom of the hill and you got 26 cans there.
So I think where you can show there's a hazard of some sort, great. But I'm just suggesting that someday you might want to think about the odds and ends that you're adding to the subdivisions that come in and get those least mentioned in your subdivision ordinance somewhere.
Mm.
Because somebody was got really strict from a developer's point of view that, hey, it's not in your ordinance, I don't have to do it. You may hear that every once in a while. So,
Yeah.
but it's a hazard, so that's
Yeah,
different.
and what you need to be doing, you don't need to make a list of everything, but those types of things that do come up continually, you may want to make a list of, and at least a couple of times a year, just review your ordinance to say, we've had garbage cans come up a number of years or a number of times during the year. Let's look at solving that problem. And that's really your job. That's what the planning commission should be doing most.
Yeah.
Above everything else. Your approvals are really secondary to creating ordinances that work for the city and helping us out in that regard.
So is there a point in time where we can't demand to make additional changes or meet additional qualifications? I mean, we can't just keep adding things and adding things and adding things and never stop, right?
Right. And the thing I've most often said is the thing a developer hates most and the thing that he's likely to sue you over most are things that happen at the end of the project.
Yeah.
If you come along and say, oh, now we need to change this. And he's already got his plans drawn up, his architect's already finished, he's paid him, and here he is, and he's got his preliminary from you. He's got his final from us, from the planning staff. That's when things are pretty much over as well.
So that is the cutoff point, more or less. Okay.
Would be.
Because if I was a developer and we
And-
kept coming back and saying, we need this, we forgot about this. I mean,
Yeah, and I can tell you give you one example of, it depends on how serious the change is too, because we had one engineer in Layton that went through the entire project and missed the fact that there was no land drain line around the outside of the project. And so we get all the way to the end. The developers actually got his final approval, stamped the plans, gone and recorded them. And the developer he's ready to record them. And the engineer comes up with this $170,000 addition to the subdivision that would need to be made, but he came up with it at the very end. So his financing is already, if you look from the private side, you understand why the bigger the change, the harder it is going to be for you to make at the end of the project versus at the beginning of the project. And so we ended up we don't have a land drain system in that subdivision. It wasn't a safety issue because we required land drains of every subdivision that came in, which they stopped up at the legislature a few years ago. But if it was a safety issue, we probably would have been able to impose it, but that doesn't mean we wouldn't have been sued over it because we didn't apply it until the very end. So the bigger the change that you want after final or after preliminary approval, the tougher it is for you to, it will be for you to make that change. So the best point is up until preliminary. If you're not sure, you can continue the application and ask for more information from staff. Or if you want more discussion amongst yourselves, or you want to go look at something, preliminary approval is the time to do that before you actually make that preliminary approval. That's for subdivisions. Site plans, commercial site plans are a little bit different because they go through a process that's a little bit different. You have one that's coming to you pretty soon. And those are a little more flexible for you. They're not as strict. A lot of the same rules that apply to residential subdivisions don't apply to commercial. Let's skip to, I'm going to go back.
Can I just make one quick comment? I think that's worth all of us keeping in mind because sometimes we're not professional planners. We have jobs, we have families, we maybe got this packet 2 or 3 days before the meeting. Sometimes issues come up in the meeting that we didn't think about ahead of time. And there is sort of a false sense of urgency that we have to make a decision and decide right now. And I think remembering that we have the option to continue something and to gather more information is worth keeping in mind in those cases.
And when you do continue something, it is very helpful for staff to know why you're continuing it and to direct staff as to the issues that you would like to, or the developer with issues you'd like to bring them or like them to bring answers to.
Yeah.
So that helps a lot. Sometimes just a blanket, we need to continue this.
Well, that just means we didn't do our homework.
That's, and sometimes I've seen it used to delay a project, which is time is money for development. I mean, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't make the right decision, shouldn't have the right information.
Yeah,
So,
but when we do have a legitimate question and a legitimate concern. So thank
And
you.
if you see it ahead of time, you could send it to us as well, to staff, and we could do research or look into it.
Mhm.
if you get the information, adequately beforehand, so.
I learned a great lesson from that last meeting, right? It's not that I didn't bring up a good point, but it was a little late in the game to bring it up. And that's why, it's one of those things, right? So.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
yeah.
It's really true. Interesting enough, another change they made up at the legislature this year, focused solely on planning commissions, is there's an expression that the court used in a case called the Chevron case, where the individuals involved in making the decision made the decision with a bias. And it was an unacceptable bias, I think is what they framed it as, or I can't remember the wording. I'll have to get it to you. But what it means is this. I had a situation in Kaysville where one of the members of the city council, because all of you know the 200 South, the Smith Center there, and it had apartments next to it, or higher density, and it also had the Smith's great big commercial center there. Believe it or not, there was opposition to a commercial center out in West Kaysville where they've got nothing. I mean, that must have been some real Bowman fan. I love Bowman's Market, by the way, but must have been some real Bowman fans out there. But one of the council people went and rallied his neighbors and gave them flyers and literally led the charge against the rezone. Appropriate or inappropriate? Highly inappropriate, right? He's the one that's got to make the decision. So that would have been highly inappropriate. For some reason, they aimed this provision at planning commissions. In this legislative session, they said that a planning commission or a planning commissioner who's found to intentionally invoke that, that type of bias, if you're out there spreading flyers, gathering individuals to come to the meeting and oppose this thing, which none of you would ever do, I know, but that is a direct violation now of state, will be of state law when that actually comes into play.
I'll just say that there was a planning commissioner in Heber City that did that. Okay. and
That's
then
probably where it started.
The mayor said, you are no longer on this planning commission. Fired her essentially. Said bye-bye. Something you could do, so
So,
you don't want to.
which we will give you our bylaws, so we show you how you can get excommunicated from the planning commission, I guess.
Yeah,
It's always for cause, which is kind of under our bylaws. And that is one of the causes that they actually indicate is when you go out and demonstrate deliberate bias and begin to rally the troops against one of the issues that you're going to have to make a decision on.
So
So,
what happened in that case?
he was reminded by an attorney from another jurisdiction that you can't do that. And so he stepped down, did not make the decision, and informed his neighbors that he wasn't, that was inappropriate to do. He sent out a subsequent flyer that said, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done this. You can't fire a city council person. It's not a problem here, but it is a problem some places. You would like to fire them, but yeah, he stepped down, and to his credit, he made a statement before he stepped down, said what I did was inappropriate. And this needs to be heard. It needs to be heard fairly and decided by those who are not involved. So
so did that person recuse himself?
he did.
Okay.
Yeah, recusal.
Because in Hebrew, they did not.
Yeah,
So that was the end of that.
that's a
Yeah.
good reason.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Turn that in the other direction if you would for us, Gary. Somebody's gonna be on the agenda. They come to you and tell you about their stuff. They want to get you to support them just in your vote.
Mhm.
I think we've covered that.
So
Answer's no.
one of the ideas,
State
Okay.
communication.
Yeah.
one of the contents in number 3, as we move down the roll, we'll speed through a couple of these, but number 3 talks about ex parte communication. Great question. And there are 2 answers. Number 1 is if it deals with a zoning issue, you are much better situated to listen to ex parte out of the meeting is what ex parte means, communication, but not in an administrative decision. In an administrative decision, you should not be listening to ex parte communications or communications regarding a specific application on subdivision or a site plan or something of that nature where you're making an administrative decision. Where you're making a decision like you will tonight on the zoning issues, you have to listen, really, don't you? Because you want the community input when you're making these zone changes. And so even zone changes to a specific piece of property, it is flexible enough that you can listen. I wouldn't go to community meetings or anything of that nature. I'd listen to them at the back of the church and then say, I'm sorry. But if you come to the meeting, you can share that with all the planning commissioners. What I do caution you is that if you do hear or meet somebody or talk to somebody, and it is significant, you may talk to a dozen people at church who don't like your zoning plan that you're going to approve tonight, but that you share it with the group, that you share what just so you know, on this application, I talked to 5 people this week and they all had these concerns, traffic and this and that type of thing. So that's the appropriate way to handle that. Going back up to public clamor. This is the most interesting, the seminal case in Utah is Clearfield versus Davis County. And there was a conditional use application and there was a lot of people there that, the children are going to die. The roads are going to become so congested that we won't get to work on time. It was just that type of thing that you hear on a regular basis. And so the rule of thumb on that is you're really the strainer. You're I'm not going to call you the sieve. That's not really a good term, but you're the listen but filter people. And so what you've got to do is you've got to look at whether or not there's substance to it, whether it's fact or fiction, and then whether or not, the reality is the big thing. You've heard the police chief say, we've had no accidents at that intersection, or you've heard the engineer say it meets AASHTO standards, and this street does not have enough traffic to constitute a failing intersection, even with these apartments or whatever they happen to be. And then you got somebody that stands up and says, it's gonna kill all the kids and this and the other thing. That's what you have to filter out. There are some things that you don't, that you can't consider as a planning commission. You remember the things, some of the things? How about
Impact on schools.
impact on schools? Perfect. How about, gee, my past offerings are gonna have to be a lot higher because, there's low income people in it. This is an actual meeting where we actually had the local ecclesiastical unit come in and talk about the fact that there would be a bigger hit on welfare and that type of, those are the types of things that you would filter out. You don't have to respond to everything that you're going to filter out, but you can certainly filter them out. Yeah, that's the school's problem. Traffic, your problem?
Go have on the state liquor store.
State liquor store?
I mean, because that's something you can filter out,
This is the nicest thing.
or how close you can be to a school.
This is the nicest thing about state liquor stores is that they're regulated by the state of Utah. So
Okay.
they tell you how far they can be from a school.
Okay,
Yeah, so Mark, if they're handled by the state, that kind of takes the burden off you a little bit.
yes.
I'm not speaking in favor of them being handled by the state, but that's one where they're very express about that. And they, interestingly enough, they minimized the distance this last legislative session to, I think, from 600 to 300 feet. I think it's all a function of just things getting tighter in the Wasatch Front. You got restaurants that want to serve, wine or beers or something like that. And they're
We have a
competing.
church next to the liquor store.
Mhm.
What?
You heard that?
Church.
The church came in second,
Yeah,
and we did go for that, and they acknowledged that they were okay
it did.
with that.
It did. Let me just talk about just a couple or two things in kind of summing up. Findings of fact, you don't have to officially make findings of fact, but it sure helps to have on the record the reason that you made your decision, especially if you're adding additional conditions on a subdivision approval. You want to incorporate by reference the engineer's standards, the planner's standards, and then these things that that the planning commission agreed on, that you all talked about. The garbage, the location of the garbages, or whatever additional requirements that you have. And there's some suggested language. I move to approve this application because, and then it meets the city code. This is number 4 in your outline. And then you incorporate the staff's report. The staff findings show that it meets all the requirements, engineering requirements and planning requirements. And the last thing is that the evidence provided during the hearing by the developer is substantial and that he's going to comply with the ordinance. He's not in violation of the ordinance as he builds this thing. So that's really a very good motion. It's a good rule of thumb motion. It includes everything that I would need as an attorney to defend your decision and the decision that you actually make. And we often forget that, but one of the places that it's really important is in your zoning. When you do a zoning approval, because the courts want to know, I've never seen a zoning decision reversed in the state of Utah. But if it were reversed, it would be reversed probably on a bias, because you had a bias, a significant bias or conflict of interest where you had actual money involved in the transaction and you zoned it specifically for money, those types of things. It has to be that radical before a zoning decision would be reversed. But it does help to put your reasons for approving the zoning decision on the record. The primary reason being that it fits the general plan or is in accordance with the general plan. And then any other reason that you see, any other rational basis that you see. Any questions regarding those before we hit the last item on the agenda? Development agreements. Probably one of my favorite things that still exist in the code that they haven't totally destroyed up there But development agreements can be written for various reasons, and they really belong to the city council. They don't belong to the planning commission, but a planning commission may find it useful to put a development agreement in place. Because they're typically, a development agreement can be used for pre-annexation. So before you annex into the city, we want a development agreement that shows that you're gonna provide us with a tank, you're gonna provide us with additional sewage, you're gonna build a road. Annexation is the best time to request the things that you need in order to provide for this particular development. Having said that, you don't typically see annexations. It's the council that will see the petition first. But you will see it once it is rezoned, you'll see the rezone. Because at the same time an annexation comes in, a rezone comes in, or whatever the zoning of the property would be. That's another good place for an annexation agreement, is the rezone. A rezone is a good place for one. I've seen them used, for example, you look at a site and you say, you know what? That site is good for this, this, and this, but it's not good for an auto storage and auto body repair shop. It's good for all these other commercial uses, but not for that. And so one thing that I've seen development agreements used for at the zoning stage is to say, are you willing to do all of these things, but not these things? And that works really well because it's recorded with the land, it travels with the land. And so any future developer that comes in wants to put a auto storage and repair facility. This is West Valley. John's remembers some of these, but maybe. And that essentially we said that these would not be appropriate. You can do that. You can look through the uses and you can actually prohibit uses through a development agreement. Now, what about development agreements for subdivisions? Interestingly enough, we have done those in the past. One of them is Jake's. First of all, there's a rule, and the rule is whatever's in your ordinance, you cannot duplicate it in a development agreement because there's no need to. So you can't do it both ways. But if you've got something that is peculiar to this subdivision, you can use a development agreement to address it. Jake, recently we signed a development agreement with Wall Company that provided for trails, if you remember. In addition to their subdivision, they would do the trail, they'd dedicate the property, and then we would improve the trails at a future date. Other things, densities, the location of parks. This is the only way now that you can control the putting in of landscaping. You used to be able to have them bond for it, but they took that out of the code 2 years ago. And you can no longer require bonding for landscaping. And so what have you got? You got these 24 lots and none of them have landscaping in. And the only solution you have to the problem is to enforce, to send out your enforcement officer and say, you need to put this in because it's been a year and we require landscaping to put within a year. And if they don't do that, then you take them to court, you fine them, you do whatever else. Or you look ahead as a planning commission, you say, when you get to 10 units, you don't get to 11 units until you put in your landscaping, until the first 10 units have their landscaping. Nothing incentivizes a developer like requiring them to accomplish this before they can build more units. So those types of things you can use a development agreement for. Anything in addition to that maybe might not be clear for now and into the future, you can use a development agreement to help. Even something like garbage. I'm not saying that should be the case, but because I think it'll be pretty settled by the time we get the conditions imposed. But there may be something peculiar to this subdivision that is outside of the ordinance, but will need to be understood between the city and the developer for generations to come, long after the developer's gone. And that's what development agreements are used for. You can recommend that a development agreement be put together for a particular development. You're the recommending body. Ultimately, it's the city council that approves them. It is an administrative act that the city council performs by resolution. Any questions on development agreements? They're handy dandy tools. Anything, John, that you want to say on development agreements? He doesn't like them?
No, I do like them. Matter of fact, West Valley uses them all the time.
They do. Yeah.
And even on subdivisions, but it's my understanding that like when it's an administrative conversation, it has to be voluntary by the developer. You can't just say you shall do a development agreement for that trail. Or
Correct.
we're not gonna approve your subdivision.
That's correct.
Yeah, so voluntary is kind of important. And then the question of, are you changing your ordinance by the development agreement?
Mhm.
Are you modifying that? So do you need a public hearing to actually do the development agreement or not? I mean, that's another conversation too.
So he's talking about a case called the Moab case, down in southern Utah. You weren't on that? Okay, this is what happened in Moab. Ivory came in and they subsequently wanted to build, there was already a subdivision approved with so many units in it. And Ivory came in and wanted to increase the number of units. And it was all around that Lion's Head, rock in Moab that you know. Right. And the folks around the area said, wait a second, you're changing the zoning, you're changing the density through using a development agreement. And Ivory said, no, we're doing it. It's an administrative act. You know, the development agreement's an administrative act. And so they took it all the way to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said exactly what John did, which went into state code that says essentially, if you're changing the density, if you're making a legislative decision, you're changing the rules in your code by development agreement, you have to bring it back to the planning commission, then to the city council. So,
And a public hearing.
and a public hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is the way you change or you have to have one public hearing.
Yeah.
So,
So
Okay.
yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you very much. Did you cover everything you wanted to, Gary?
Yes, I forgot that
That's
Jake
okay.
needed
Jake, do
10
you
minutes, so I apologize.
give you 5 minutes?
Let's give you 1 minute. I have a presentation ready on an overview of the general plan. It'll be old news to you and maybe new for the public, some of it. And so I could go through that and then you could open up the public hearing. And as you know, public hearing, we listen to comments, then you close the public hearing, then you have a discussion. It's not a dialogue between you and the public.
Got it. Okay, thank you. With that, thank you, everybody, for your input and your questions and the information. We will close. Yes, sir. What would you like to say?
Something? Or is it wise?
If you don't know what's going on, it is wise. You don't understand what has been presented to you. It is wise. There's a lot of wisdom in it. So. Yeah, you take it seriously because we only have one planning commission meeting a month, but it is wise. It is wise to do that.
So the recommendation to table something, can that be made by any one of the planning commission?
But it would be treated as a motion, seconded and voted on. Yeah. Yeah, and we should have a reason. Yes.
If you need more information.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if you need more information.
Okay, thank you very much. We will close the planning commission work session and take a 3-minute recess before the general session starts.
Yeah, he used to be really good engineer.
Yeah, no, this is mine over here. No, is that my water is Thank you, Aaron. Thank you. That's the easiest question.
The session.
Yeah, that right. On the one hand, it could have been. On it.
Yeah, I did a session in one of the AK, conferences years ago. And he came up to me after. We go have lunch or something. And we started talking, and it was right after I left Sally. And just started doing stuff, and it's worked out. So like too much for him, but okay for me. So I'm me, and he's him, and he has an intern that works with me.
So it's three of you.
Yeah, and then we'll bring people on that we know.
John, let
Yeah.
me show you.
As we need them. And we have, like, several people working on a couple of general plans up in, Wasatch. No, it's.
I know.
If you'd like to
My
have that, one, you
fave.
can take it.
So we can be famous in state folklore.
If we ever came through that. one.
You're gonna show me.
Say.
And then we go to the next.
Yeah. So want me to go from here for.
Yeah, so you go from here, you see the downtown.
Okay.
Precision.
Say. You know where I actually seen. I guess you could. May have done this.
I think it's just. And then I want you to talk about what else. Yeah, yeah, and then right here, you'll get it, but I'll pick up.
Okay.
And then I'll take the rest, but.
For me, I'll probably mention, really the updates in the hall.
Yes, but what line by line. Okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna move this. Right to here, that's a good word. Yeah, and these were not. Deep dive on these.
Okay.
One day, some.
I'm probably.
And at first I thought.
Yeah, so.
And then it's like, feel that how heavy.
If that was considered rock or not.
Okay. Is there anybody else on in? Oh, thank you.
We'll let the last few members of the public sign in while we're waiting to get started. All right, well, welcome. I would like to welcome everybody, those in person and those online, to the Planning Commission General Session meeting tonight. I would especially like to welcome those members of the public who have come. We are happy to have you here. We welcome your input and we look forward to hearing what you have to say. So thank you for taking time out to be with us tonight. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the February 17th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? If there are no proposed changes, we will entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve them as they are.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Kate, and online? Any opposed? All right, thank you. Motion carries. Now to the main order of business. I am assuming everybody is here for the public hearing on the general plan update. So let me explain just a little bit how that is going to go. The first thing we'll do is turn some time over to Jake. He's the city planner, to introduce the topic and do a little overview of what the plan is, what it isn't, maybe some areas of specific interest. When Jake has given his information, we will then open the public hearing part of the meeting, and we will invite anyone who would like to step to the podium, give us your name, and give us your thoughts. And we would ask that you take about 3 minutes, or no more than about 3 minutes, just in the interest of time. That though, just to be clear, the public comment section will not be a conversation. So it won't be an opportunity for us to answer questions, but just to listen. Then after we're done listening, after everyone's had a chance to say their piece, we will close the public hearing, and then we will have an opportunity to discuss and address some of the issues that are raised. So I'll remind us of that partway through if we need to, but we will go ahead and jump in, and I will turn the time over to Jake for an overview.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good to be with you. This is a long time coming. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. The city's been working on this for 2 years. Hours, hundreds of hours have gone into this, and a lot of public input. And I'm Jake, and this is my planning colleague, John. And I'll just kind of give you an overview of the process. This is part of our downtown parks and trails and active transportation initiative. This was a 4-step process. We began with a public workshop. I'll show some pictures from that in a minute. A lot of public input. I think some of you came to that. Thank you. And then we had a number of open houses, looked at alternative scenarios. And then we celebrated the vision. Actually, a year ago, we celebrated the vision for the downtown parks and trails. And then the Planning Commission took a year going through the general plan chapter by chapter. So a lot of work has gone into this in a lot of detail. Part of this included a number of surveys. Our first survey had 186 participants from Morgan City residents, and that input was on trails, parks, and the downtown. Also, I mentioned our brainstorming workshop, 100 participants. This was at the middle school. Here's some photos you could see of people making maps, coming up with ideas, brainstorming, looking at the future of Morgan City. And it's really great when people come out to meetings, get involved, kind of share their creativity and participate. There's another photo of that. From this came 15 different maps, looking at the city, maps created by the public, looking at parks and trails, downtown, a lot of different ideas, a lot of creativity happening. Then we took these maps and created 3 different scenarios, and the public had a chance to come and provide comments on the scenarios, the different ideas. You see one in the notes there, love the river access. And it was a way to respond to what was in the works and the planning that was happening. And then we had another survey, so a second survey with 106 participants, and that was input on the scenarios, telling us what they thought about the different scenarios. And then from that came the vision, and the vision rolled into the general plan.
Yeah, I'm just going to run through the chapters here a little bit. As a reminder, you have an existing general plan, and that was done about 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is updating some of those chapters and diving a little deeper into some of those chapters. So you essentially have a background introduction, land use, community character. That does have your future land use map in it, which is probably something that most everybody wants to look at in general plans. Again, that is a long-range vision for your future land uses. Transportation is looked at, circulation, housing and neighborhoods, economic development. Those aren't some of the chapters that we did much with. The environment, community services, parks and open space was another deeper dive part of this also. So the biggest areas of emphasis for this process has been the downtown. So taking a look there on how that should evolve over time, updating the future land use map. Again, you had one 3 years ago, but there's a few changes in there now. Transportation plan, a little bit deeper dive there. Parks, trails, those kinds of things, much closer look at those, including even some conceptual parks plans for some of the parks locations. Downtown, I don't know if you've been there lately, but there's a lot going on. All right, you have a plaza showing up, really a different idea there to make that more of a gathering place in the community than it has been in the past. We had a vision for the downtown. I don't know, do you want me to read that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, okay. Morgan City will build upon its historic roots, harmonizing its history with future opportunities. The commercial street area is envisioned as a more vibrant downtown with increased attractions and activities, with walkable streets, pathways, and a downtown plaza. With added sidewalks, new crossings, and places to linger, residents and visitors will enjoy visiting and experiencing downtown. The area will become more mixed use by adding residential living, office, and entertainment to the existing retail, restaurant, and commercial base. So it's a statement of the vision for that area, okay? You may have all seen some of these. This is the land use pattern that we're hoping to achieve over time. This gives you a little bit closer look of how this could happen. The guiding principles, which is one way to do a general plan, is to have some principles in there, and then how do you actually achieve them? That's the way this plan is put together. So you have diverse and thriving mixed-use development, vibrant and walkable. There's a view of as is, looking to, yeah, and we engaged a graphic artist to kind of help envision that picture, things that could happen. You show a little plaza here. I understand there's maybe a proposal for that particular piece right now.
No,
Not that one?
a proposal for a building on
Okay.
a commercial street.
Yeah, so not quite what that vision shows, which is an important point. The vision does change as you go along, okay?
One of these buildings that's there is proposed.
Okay,
So the proposal does match the vision.
okay, sounds good. Okay, adding some residential living, gathering places, you already see the beginning of the plaza that's coming along. Again, this is existing, and here's how it changes. Plaza in the back there, additional parking, some room for some mixed use off that parking to the south. Some ideas about how the plaza should be coming along, the alley that comes in, all of that is in there. The idea that it's all going to be connected and accessible, and try and hang on to the historic feel, okay? Future land use, you want me to just touch on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it's important that every general plan has some kind of a future land use map that really says this is where we're headed. It's not where we are today, which is really the zoning map, right? But it's a different look of where you could be going in the future. And this one really does try to explain the difference between that future land use map, which is that vision for the community, versus you've got an existing zoning ordinance and an existing zoning map that covers the city right now. Some of those could change over time. They might not ever change. But there's a difference there between that way things could look in the future versus what you've got right now in your zoning ordinance and map. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay? All right. Your turn, I think.
You want to end on this?
Okay. It really kind of the same thing, but your general plan is that long-term vision of your community, looks at that future land use and things you hope you can accomplish over time. And your zoning ordinance is what you have today. You know, zoning ordinances can change. They're not set in stone. They evolve over time as issues come up, such as garbage cans, things like that, that you just need to add things to your ordinances. So that's your turn.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this is the proposed future land use. Most of this matches our current future land use in the general plan that's existing, but I do want to touch on a few changes. We did add the residential mixed. There's a blue area, and we have some of this in North Morgan, and then also some next to the downtown. And this created a change that we moved some attached housing out of the MDR, the medium density residential, and moved that into the residential mix. This matches what we've heard from residents. This matches what the conversation was with the council and with planning commission. On the outside of town, we have low density residential, and then we have some medium density residential. All of that is single family homes, is what it is, with accessory dwelling units allowed per city ordinance and state code. And then as you move closer to the downtown, you have the downtown mixed use area from Commercial Street out to the river, and then also State Street. On the north side of Interstate 84, we have highway commercial. And then as we transition into North Morgan, we have residential, medium density residential, and then some residential mix, and then also transitioning into medium density residential, low density residential. And then also where the dairy is, we have master plan community. And that's if they ever want to change hands, what is an option. And where it's a large property, it creates a new opportunity there. But again, as John explained, the future land use is high level and involves a number of different zoning types. So did this kind of little detail to talk about some of the different mixes in terms of residential. So the residential mix, medium-sized single family, also small lot single family, twin homes, townhomes, ADUs, and then overlay zones when appropriate. Right now, we just have one overlay zone tool, but there may be others in the future. And then medium density residential, which is medium-sized single family, and then also some smaller lot single family as an option, and then ADUs and overlays. And under a future land use is a lot of different zoning types, and there is no proposal to change zoning as part of a general plan. And then as you transition into low density residential, single family large lot from 12,000 going up to agriculture as well. There's the map again. Okay, I'm going to transition into transportation. I put this picture in so you can remember what snow looks like and how pretty Morgan is with snow. And since you didn't get a winter, here it is for 10 seconds. So hopefully next year we get that, or maybe a surprise spring, who knows. The big part of the transportation is the transportation map. This was thoroughly reviewed and updated, and a number of changes. The red are, I mean, obviously we're not messing with I-84. That's all in UDOT's hands. But the red are the arterial roads, a little bit wider, a little bit faster speeds, our main thoroughfare through town. And then we have future collector, which is the light blue, and then future local roads. And what you need to remember about the future, about the transportation plan, is that these are roads when an area gets developed. The city's not going out and building these roads now, but if somebody owns a large field, the city is not going to actually put a road there. But if you want to develop that property and put homes or commercial or some kind of businesses there, then a road, and this way we have a connected system. Right now, there's a number of challenges on Island Road and a number of other places in the city where we don't have good connectivity and there's safety hazards. So the idea is over the next 20 or 30 years, where could some streets go if they're developed? Okay, and I want to talk a little bit about trails and parks. The vision is provide a comprehensive connected network of parks, trails, and recreation amenities that facilitates a healthy lifestyle for residents, offers opportunities to gather as a community, and encourages visitors to explore Morgan's destinations. This is something residents are really excited about. We heard a lot of requests for more trails, a trail system. There's the Mickelson Mile, which is great, but people want more trails. And so that is part of this plan. Some of the guiding principles are a comprehensive trail network. So you can get everywhere in town. You can get across the freeway. You can get across the river. You can go to the foothills. Also integrating with the river, capitalizing the river as a great scenic resource. Multi-use, meaning bikes, walking, maybe scooters, e-bikes when appropriate in terms of lower speeds and safety. And then foothills and trails, so a lot of different types. Here's some of the different examples. We're seeing trails and stormwater basins around the state. Also, these little bike parks are becoming very popular. And then also, of course, the commuter, you want to get around town or go get a bite to eat, jump on your bike or your e-bike. So this is the proposed trail plan. And again, with trails, this is the city working with the landowners, trying to create opportunities. In some cases, the trails are in the right of way, and so that's a little bit easier. In other cases, it's when they're developed. Specifically, there was a property up here in the foothills that was developed, and as part of that process, we worked with the landowner to get a 20-foot trail easement. And so now the city has that easement and that ability to put in a trail in the future. And so this is an opportunity to really create and make something happen. And it's a 20-year plan, and this will be updated. Right now, the state is incredible when it comes to trails. There's a lot of money in terms of grants for cities in creating trails, and we have to have an adopted trails plan, or we can't really go after the trail grants. But I'm seeing a lot of cities get $500,000, $1 million, $100,000. There's pretty good grant money out there when it comes to trails. Soft trails for hiking, walking, paved trails. There's all kinds of options out there. Also, this plan highlights 3 locations for enhanced pedestrian crossing, State Street, and then also on the east side, and then on the west side. So 3 locations where we'd like to see something going over. And this is on the city's website, and the slides will be as well. So you can have a more detailed map. So the idea is that we have a good, safe crossing over 84, whether it's under the freeway or over or Safeway. And we are working with a group right now under a UDOT grant looking at State Street. I don't have specifics for you on that, but UDOT is actually spending some design money on that. Okay, parks now. Same vision, having a good park system for the whole city. This is our park vision map. And so walking through a couple things, we have our Riverside Park, and then we also have the Fox Point Park, so our 2 existing parks. And And so if you live on the south side of the freeway, you can walk to those in most of these neighborhoods. But if you're in North Morgan, there's no way to get there in a safe way, especially walking or biking. And so this plan does call for a park in North Morgan. That's the PNM, somewhere north. We don't have land yet, but the idea is somewhere north of the freeway having a park. Then if the dairy gets developed, and again, that's if, a park in that area. And then on the west side of the city, near the creek, a park out in here. And it doesn't mean that this land is being taken from the landowner for a park. It just means we want to have a park in these areas. And then we do have our community partners in terms of the school district and the county, looking at those as recreation facilities. And then downtown, we have the plaza, and then also the train park where the caboose is. So, and a part of this, right now, our existing level of service is 3.78 acres of park per 1,000 residents. And through listening to residents and discussion, we decided to up that goal to 5 acres of park per 1,000 residents. Morgan already has, I'm going to go back, we already have some land that we can bring on for this. And that, the 3.7 is current developed park land. So this property right here, the Fish Pond Park, this is land owned by the city, but is not yet developed. So Morgan is already making good ground towards getting that goal. Some of the guiding principles, comprehensive, connect to the river, really view the river as a resource and bring in opportunities to the river, look at year-round recreation. We don't have a lot of winter recreation activities. And then also a lot of different, having activities for different ages, younger, older. And then also just more green space for playing sports. Sports are a big deal. So here's a schematic plan for the Fish Pond Park. Here's Tractor Supply. The city owns this property back here, and bringing it in off of the river, have a trail around it, and then a parking lot. And this is a preliminary concept. And then this is a picture I took up in Idaho Falls of a good example. And the city does have some grant funding for this and is getting pursuing additional grant funding. This is a schematic plan we put together for a park in North Morgan. We asked residents what they'd like to see there. Pickleball courts, some parking, play field, playground, maybe some pavilions. This is about 3 acres. So it tells us what we need. We need 3 acres of flat ground in North Morgan. So if you know anyone. And then Riverside Park, so looking at some updates, some pickleball courts. That's the big one, adjusting the parking lot, improved playground. So a number of different ideas to upgrade and enhance the existing park, keep the ball field and the trail, and most of the trees would stay, but a few minor enhancements. And these are schematic. This is not a construction drawing, and it's not an absolute plan, but kind of matches the vision of what we heard from the public. So again, we've gone through this 4-step phase, presented the vision a year ago, took a year to update the general plan, and that's a high-level overview. Yeah.
Thank you very much, both of you, for that overview and that input. Before we move on, commissioners, any questions or comments for planning? No? Okay, then we will entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to go into public hearing.
Thank you, Chris. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay. It appears to be unanimous. Thank you, Dave, online. All right, this is my favorite part. So here's your opportunity to step to the podium, give us your name, and tell us what you think. The time is now yours.
Says state your name and address. So My name is Brett Boss. I'm at 586 Red Rock Road. With the update on the city plan, there were some things that stood out to me, obviously. And I really came here to talk about three things. And they all affect, of course, around my neighborhood, and a lot of my neighbors are here because they seem to agree that, we want to share with everyone our desires for our neighborhood, what we would, hopefully see in the future. We'd love to discuss how our neighborhood could be more part of the planning process, especially when it comes to something like land use. We're not city planning experts, but so we don't know all the ins and outs, and I'll state that up front. I don't know all the details, but we want to learn and we want to understand why certain things are planned in certain ways and why they're redefined, and how we can come to an agreement on something. And then the other is that, looking over the land use, based off of what I was able to gather from my neighbors, I came up with a different land use map, and I shared that out. And I think either Jake or Teresa have it and can put it up. But basically, I'd love to either, I'd love for our map to be accepted. That would be awesome. But if that's not the case, then I'd love for us to table accepting the current plan until we can just discuss, okay, how do we make this work, and how do things compare? So this is the one that I've submitted, and you can see that it puts a lot more low density residential near the southeast part of the city, or the easternmost part, really. And there's a few reasons for that. Number one, we don't have a through street. It's kind of like Island Road. And if you look at Island Road, look how much low density residential is around Island Road, but we don't have the same thing over here. If you go back to the other map, you can see it's medium density residential all the way to the edge. Even though, there's a 1-lane road out to the right, which makes it difficult to traverse, especially in case of an emergency or something like that. The other is that, the low density residential that is on the original or the proposed one, that is behind our neighborhood really is on the hill and can't really be developed. So even though it's marked that way, we've had other people come in and find that that's not developable because it's just too steep of an incline on the M Mountain or M Hill. So for those reasons, we're looking at that and saying, especially since if you look at the new plan, low density and medium density were redefined. So because of their redefinition, we think our neighborhood and to the east of us better fit into low density residential now rather than medium density residential. And we know this helps, at least in the planning phase, of how things grow when rezoning happens. So we're trying, and we know now with the state requirements that zoning is very important now, because once you zone something for a higher density, it's very difficult to pull that back. So we're trying to help plan for the future around our neighborhood and be assured of what's going to happen going forward. And I'm sure I've used more than my time, but those are my thoughts on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett.
My name is Jeremy Paddock, and I live at 524 East Ridgeline. First of all, I want to thank you for all the work you've put into making the town a quality place to live. I know we are all currently enjoying that very much. And I like the trails idea. I'm a very big outdoorsy kind of guy, and I like having access to that kind of recreation. It makes life a lot nicer. Having said that, I did have one concern. It was kind of personal. One of the trails goes right by my backyard, right behind Ridgeline Drive. And just knowing from being on that hill, my concern is the privacy. If we give public access to that, all the people on that road, actually in the Red Rock neighborhood, will have, like anyone up on that hill because of the elevation, which is quite extreme. Anyone who goes on the trail could see into the backyards and into the living areas of all the homes in that area. So that raises a concern, although I do love the idea of trails. It's been one of my frustrations, is not having more trails. I just ask that you please consider the proximity to homes and the way in which the elevated terrain would affect eyesight paths into homes and backyards and in windows and the privacy element of that. I also would like to echo Brett's comments with the density and the lot sizes in that area. Just I've noticed when we moved into town, we rented up on Sapphire for a year. And as I dropped a neighbor's kid, just picking my kid up from an activity in the high school and then dropping a friend off over there, I noticed that with that high density, a lot of those neighborhoods feel a lot like parking lots, which I feel is not really the community feel that we'd like to have in our area. So yeah, be aware that with each home, you're probably going to get 2 or 3 cars, and the parking available for those. There is designated parking up on that hill there, but also just, people like to have cars, and cars are getting bigger, and they've got to have a place, and then just kind of turns into a parking lot neighborhood feel. And I've seen it, in that area and in other towns I've been to as well. Also, one of my concerns is as I've traveled around the state, specifically I'm thinking of the Harriman area where a lot of dense homes and housing have come in. It just really, I don't know. I love the feel of Morgan. I love the recreational, the open spaces. And I know we do want to,
Can you wrap it up?
Yeah.
Thank
I know we want to have available, affordable homes for younger families. But yeah, I'll just say thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Teresa, is there anybody online? Oh, go ahead.
So, take a minute.
You're good, Katie. Take all 3.
I love the plaza. I love the parks and trails. So thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. I would just like to echo the low density aspect over near Red Rock in that area. And I understand the high density to a point, especially where it makes sense. City center. So I just want to echo that. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Katie, can you put your
Yes.
name
Yes.
on there for the records?
Sorry.
Just-
Katie Tilby, 601 East Ridgeline Drive. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Madam Chair, there is a landowner, Russ Clark, online. I don't see that if he needs comment or not, he can
Okay.
surely address us.
Mr. Clark, if you would like to speak, you're more than welcome to turn your microphone on, and we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, no, no real comments. I'm a general partner of Clark's Feed and Seed, which owns the land where the blue shed is. And in the proposed land, it does have a road that would go through where our current blue shed is. And I was just curious what the state is of that, if it's, planned, considered, funded, what the state of that is.
Okay, and we can address that in the discussion period. Thank you. Anybody else? Feel free.
Gerald Rowley. We live at 613 Red Rock Way. I haven't planned any remarks. I am concerned about the density of the open field that's behind Ridgeline Drive. I'm concerned about the traffic, the increased traffic on 100 South and going up over around Como Springs. Valerie and I moved here to Morgan 26 years ago to get away from high-density living. And I would like, if at all possible, that we can stay right where we are without having our neighborhood change the nice, peaceful, quiet neighborhood that we work so hard to get into. That's all.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to give it one more minute. Okay, I don't actually have the patience for a full minute. If nobody else is inclined to share their thoughts, we will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
Okay, do we have a second? Second from Ray. Thank you. All in favor, indicate. Excellent. Okay, the public hearing is closed. So now, commissioners, is our opportunity to discuss what we've heard and to address the questions and comments that were made. Ray, just to start out, did you have a response to Mr. Clark's comments?
He's concerned about a road going. His concern is the road going through the middle of their property, where the blue shed is. The Fisher Landers road map does not guarantee the road be where they're at. It'll be when a person develops that ground, then the road potentially could go where that map showed. But until a person develops their ground, the road will not happen.
Yeah, and I think that's an important distinction to make. So I'm hearing, as the chief concerns, density and traffic. I did really appreciate the positive responses to the plans for the trails and the plaza. I think considering the proximity to homes and the sightlines is a valid concern with trails. What are your thoughts, commissioners, on density and traffic and the future land use map?
I guess I didn't realize that you're talking about a trail that goes behind Red Rock and up along the side of the mountain? Was there one there? Okay.
Yeah, can we see that map?
I can certainly see for those people who live in that area, having people walking by and up along that side of that mountain.
And
Yeah, it certainly takes away from privacy and whatever. Yeah. I didn't realize that was on the map.
well, yeah, there's definitely a trade-off,
Yeah.
but and the trail plan is schematic. So what looks like might be close on paper, I think it's kind of referring to up in here. It's a very challenging area. The mountain is very steep there. It would involve willing landowners in terms of easements and access, and maybe it could go up higher on the mountain. But without this there's no connection of this side of the mountain to that side of the mountain. Um, But I think the comment about privacy and also looking at that when it's actually planned is good. And most of the time, the people that use the trail are those who live in the neighborhood when there are trails that go through or by neighborhoods.
What would be the process if we actually were able to acquire the rights to some of this land for building a trail? Is that something that would come before us or before the council, or would that just happen?
It would maybe depend, if it were part of any development, a plat or any kind of development, 100% could go by you. If it were a trail plan of an area, I think you would definitely see it.
Okay.
So I don't see why you wouldn't actually see it. For example, the plat, this trail section right here, that's in that 20-foot easement, that was something that was in the plat, came before you as part of the project. And so you saw that at the time.
But in this particular spot, there's not likely to be further development straight up the mountain.
No, there wouldn't be development, but it would be part of a broader effort if the landowner was willing to work with us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, speaking very candidly, because I'm among friends here tonight, I considered it a win that we ruled out multifamily housing on this plan, in that neighborhood. I don't think townhomes or apartments would be appropriate there at all. And so I was happy to see that we're at least down to single-family homes. But I still think, and have never received a really satisfactory answer, I think that traffic is a problem. That road is narrow. And I keep hearing, well, someday they're going to develop something around Como Springs, but I don't know how realistic that is. And so that is a concern of mine, is traffic in what is effectively kind of a dead-end street.
You're talking about 100 South
Yeah,
primarily.
and to 100 South.
Madam Chair, maybe Jacob pull up the master plan where we're looking at connecting to Young Street. And now you'll have the bridge also going to State Street. As that property develops, he's got it on there.
And there is a right of way in there.
Yes.
And we have 100 South as a collector. Not the same as Young Street, which is arterial, but as a collector. But
What does that mean?
I think you look at the number of, well, so the city has street cross sections of every one of these types of roads.
Mhm.
A collector is typically like 30 miles an hour, not 25, but 30. Our collector actually now has a trail on the side of it. The new subdivision, Morgan Creek side, has a trail as part of the collector that's coming in, an 8-foot wide trail instead of a sidewalk. And you look at the amount of land back in here, it's pretty minimal that could be developed, being on the perimeter. And a second access road through, I think, would make a huge difference.
Oh,
and
definitely.
solve
that
that. And you're saying, oh, well, what comes first, that second road access or the development? Time will only tell.
Connecting 100 South directly with Young Street.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And there is a right of way there now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Teresa, do you have any more details on that?
Currently, we do have a right of way there, but until that is developed, the road won't be there, but it's already, we don't own the land, but the landowner that has that big field owns that portion and is platted for a future road.
Yeah, the houses are even configured
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
space for it.
And there is the gravel trail, right?
Right.
That just went in a couple of years ago.
I don't know that I love the idea of 100 South being a collector road either, because it is fully developed and residential. There's the elementary school pickup there. That making that bigger and faster seems unsafe.
But, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean 30 miles an hour. It could be at the 25 as well. But it definitely means that it's planned to handle more traffic, and it already is. It's our Island Road is a collector, 300 West is a collector. I mean, they already function this way.
Yeah.
And the more cul-de-sacs you have, the more collectors and arterials you need, and the more grid you have and the more connections, the more you can spread that traffic out and around.
And I understand that you've certainly done your research on this and we've discussed it and the math works out. But living there, it doesn't feel, that is a concern I expressed to you, other commissioners. It doesn't feel like a great choice to do a lot more developing there for traffic reasons. So that's a concern of mine. What are concerns, if any, of yours?
Somebody had mentioned Como Springs. And do we know on anything going on there with development or road improvement for access, egress, anything like that might be able to aid in that traffic worry, at least coming back into town, looping around? Do we
I know there's discussion of the other access bridge. It is in the county, so the city doesn't have control over its land use authority and zoning. City does provide water to Como Springs, right, Teresa? And so, but at this point, the landowner is actually not making significant changes. I think there was talk and not a lot of changes.
And I apologize, we actually just give them sewer and electric. We don't have water for them.
Oh,
Sewer and
no water, just sewer and electric. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think the city would like for Como Springs to annex in, then it could be under city zoning and control. Maybe it brings problems with it.
I'm seeing the mayor making faces.
So going back to the zoning map, the area they're talking,
Land use map,
pardon me?
the future land use map.
Yeah, the future land use
Yes.
map. Right now, the area they're talking about, it is low density residential, right?
Yeah, and medium density residential is all single family.
Okay,
And this doesn't allow for townhomes or higher density. I mean, it would not promote that.
so ultimately, if the owner of that property meets the zoning requirements of that area, we really can't stop him from developing that area, can we?
Well, so I'll pull up the zoning so you could take a look at it. I already had it ready.
You've got it.
So this whole area is R18, which is effectively R110
Mhm.
per current zoning ordinances. So 10,000 square foot lots. That's what this is already zoned at. And then R112 is the blue area, and then rural residential, which is 20,000. Oh, 1 acre lots.
Okay,
But
So then, obviously, if we approve the future land use and a developer came to us requesting a zoning change, then with a project that met the future land use as opposed to the existing zoning, how much of an increase are we talking about? How many more lots would they be able to put in that space?
going from the 1 acre to well, I mean, that's where the future land use has a lot of different options. It's a process, public hearings, discussion, planning commission involvement. That's how it's intended. It's not automatic. It could end up at quarter acre lots. They could even go half acre or third, or it could go down to, according to current zoning, the smallest would be 10,000 square foot lots, or it could be a combination for this area. And then this area, which already has the R18 zone, could be R110.
Well, let me ask you, and this might be a really basic question. If every time we talk to the public, they tell us they want lower density and more rural feel, And every time we solicit input, we hear lower density and a more rural feel. Why don't we just make this a little more rural and lower density? What's the advantage to making it medium density rather than low density?
Well, one, we do surveys, we talk to a lot of people, gather that wide range. It's good to listen to everybody. Also talk to landowners. Landowners are not here or present. Some of them have been involved in the past. Also looking at market conditions, also looking at housing attainability and affordability. So there's a lot of factors to weigh into it. Morgan City is the city and the county is the county. So that's something that when this whole process was started 6 or 7 years ago, that was a big thing behind it all is the city would be the city and the county would be the county. And it started as a joint process and then it split for good reason. And so there's just a lot of factors in that. But certainly, I think listening is part of it, but listening to everyone and looking at it.
Curious, I've never talked to anybody other than developers who wanted higher density. Have any of you? Have you had that feedback from people?
Here, John, why don't you?
We're involved in quite a few communities and we've gone through this process here, but we've also heard, where are our kids going to live? Okay. All the larger lots, you start with a land cost that's pretty exorbitant, and then you throw the house on and it's just only very wealthy people can buy those. And so a little bit smaller lot, this may not be the spot for that, but other places in your city will make sense for that. And I'm just saying that that is a common thing that we are hearing in, how many general plans are we doing right now? 4, 5, 6 of those. And everybody's asking that question. Where can the kids live?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, all of you probably have kids or grandkids. You want them to live in Morgan? No.
Okay, I'm talking too much and I would love to hear from everybody. So I'm going to pick on you. Jay, what are your thoughts?
Oh, they're all my neighbors and I love them to death. So I don't want to talk because I'll say something I don't want to, I don't know. I just don't want to talk, but, so I can share some feelings and thoughts based on all the things I've heard. I'm in real estate, so I know how much land costs, and it's a good point. If you were to put a 1/4 acre lot in that area, it's going to be close to $300,000. And you're going to put a house on there that's going to cost a lot of money, and our kids are going to have $5,000 house payments, $6,000 house payments. So it's real, right? And we get pressure from the state to increase our density because we live in a desirable place. So
Pressure from the state.
what's that?
Can I tell you that you do?
We get
I spend
tons of pressure from the state.
45 days up there every year, and this year we missed minimum density by about that much. And in other words, the state was going to mandate that every residential subdivision allow for 6,000 square foot lots. Every single residential subdivision, and that was Ward's bill. And if you're up there, you know the pressure that the league puts up with every single year on that. And that's where all the apartments came from. And finally, the governor said this year, he goes, we've got more apartments than what we need. We've hit that line. But he says, what we need is more townhouses and more medium density. We got to build more that people can actually own. But we just missed it by that much this year up there. If you were up there, you know that.
But yeah, please just hold your comment.
Hey,
This is transition.
Yes, I will take care of it. Yes, let's stay with the order. Commissioner Ackett, you were saying.
So, I understand the pressure of density and things like that and affordability. Totally get it. And I also feel the same exact way. I picked my lot because there was nobody in my backyard, and I love there's a mountain there, and I don't ever want anyone to be there. And I don't think it's realistic for me to expect that it'll remain empty forever. When I look across this area and I hear what people care about because I live in the neighborhood, then what the real concern, I believe, is a lot of these perimeter homes, if you look at the maximum density allowed on a medium density zone, there's potential for a developer to put some really tight homes up next to homes that aren't tight. And I think nobody wants a major density change in their backyard. And so the way I've felt about that is I've really liked the term buffer zone. I really like, I feel like I try to convey that in our
Yeah.
in our developments. Like if you're gonna put a new development in, I would like the same house, space, and style in their backyard, and then give it a road, and then build the allowable density across the street. So the density is at least matching kind of like the backyard, and you've got a road in between. And I think that it's maybe a buffer zone is a way that I try to convey, let's give both parties close to what they want. And so if something like this were to come across and I were on the commission still, I would push highly for something like that, something very similar in the backyard of what exists with the road in between and then the 8,000 square foot lots across that next road or something like that.
So that would be the buffer zone, that.
Yeah, and I think we ran into some discussions like that on behind Tractor Supply and with the high density. And as we got closer to the homes on Island Road, they were like more on some bigger things. And so let's make sure if we're building back that way to give more space and not so dense. And so that's that's something that I see like could actually maybe play out that would make sense for all the parties. But then also the other thing that I feel is I was always confused about this area because we've got Morgan Valley Polaris right there. And what is Morgan Valley Polaris? Is that commercial? What is Como Springs? Is that commercial? So I've been a little confused in my mind about what zone are we in? I feel like I live in the country, but I also have some commercial that's confusing to me. But what I really don't see, like I do see on the north side of Morgan, is I see previous land use decisions where higher density has crept in and allowed. And so when things come up in North Morgan, it feels a little bit more justified to allow the increased density because of the precedence that's already over there. And I don't feel that precedence here. I don't feel a higher density. It feels like along the Wasatch Front, it seems like the more you go up the hill, the more like your home value is worth, or you're cooler because you live on the east side. And I kind of feel that way here. I kind of feel like this is more of the east side or the area where the density isn't so dense. And so I would just say I feel a lot of the same exact things that you guys feel. And I probably would like to see the same exact things they would like to see. And I would imagine based on what we currently have, we would probably get some hybrid of that once an actual development thing came through. And I certainly hope this side of town doesn't turn into high density because I think we already have that somewhere. And I don't think there's a new need to create another high density zone area. And so that's kind of some of my thoughts.
Okay, thank you very much. Mark, what are you thinking?
Well, I think I've already commented somewhat. I definitely agree with Jay in regards to there's areas of the city that are more prone to be high density than others. You know, I used to live in that area and I know that how the traffic can be. If it was zoned for low density, is that something you could live with? Is that what you're looking for? I mean, that's okay. So low density, there's still going to be increased traffic. But what you're concerned about is it's going to create a lot less additional traffic if it's low density versus the other. Okay. So I can agree. There's areas in the city that lend themselves more to high density and medium density than that area.
Thank you. Ray, did you have any comments?
Yeah, pull that volume up again, please. I like to point to one. The blue area, and I guess what I'm trying to look at, is you folks live there. What ground is still left to be developed? What ground are we talking about? But that's at the county. There's dealerships in the county. So what ground from the city is left to be developed? How much? The blue part. What's the blue currently zoned?
There was a previous plan that came to the planning commission. This is part of the concern, and the developer showed all these
Yeah.
really teeny
Which-
units in that property, and I think that's what's.
Thank you, Ray. That's what I wanted to thank you. So I guess what I would like to ask, that prior plan that was proposed, can somebody, Teresa or Jake, tell me what was proposed in that?
It was never actually officially proposed.
Yeah.
There was discussion by the landowner of proposing a mixed residential overlay zone
Okay.
to allow some single family, small lot, single family, and some townhomes.
So the mixed.
And,
overlay
and,
zone
and
was
they,
approved. Okay.
they heard the public clamor and they backed off.
Does anybody
and-
know how
and-
much ground is there roughly that could still be developed? How much?
Just for clarification, so we don't get our audience in there, that was
Okay.
never a proposed subdivision. It was no formal submittal,
Oh.
et cetera. Now currently, just, madam, if you're
So
don't
we had-
mind.
We had a developer that tried to promote the mixed use concept. Currently, the zone is what?
Okay, why don't you make statements instead of questions?
Yeah,
Cut-
yes, Ray.
The zone is
It's
112.
it's R112.
If I divide 12, if I divide 40,560 acres, feet an acre by 12, you come up with 3.6 units per acre. So you get 3 units per acre is all you're going to get there according to the current zone. I think we're already where you want to be if we stay at the zone and don't use the mixed use piece. So I think really the question that you folks want to have answered is the zone, in my opinion, the zoning's okay, but it's a mixed use piece that convolutes that.
I feel like there's a third element. Yes, you're right. The zoning is okay. The idea of the mixed use was not okay, but that has not progressed any further. But I think the concern is that the general plan, if that is then medium density rather than low density, it sort of opens the door to a developer to come in and propose a development that is a little bit higher density than the existing zoning.
It opens the door, correct. But this planning commission has no obligation to follow, plan to stay with the current zone.
True. Jake, did you have a comment?
Saying there is no current proposal for
There's nothing there.
Right,
mixed residential
right.
in that area.
I guess my thought is at this point, if the planning commission is aware of the concern, aware of the need, aware of this particular area not wanting higher density, we stay with the zone that's intact. I think we're okay. I think we can answer their concern as long as the planning commission is not willing to change that zone for this particular area.
Goes back to my question a few minutes ago, though, of if it's not our intention to develop this more densely, then why do we have it on the plan? Why not just put lower density? So,
A lot of the area already fits in the medium density residential.
and that was a question as well. So
That's
what is
already
existing
compatible.
Now.
Yeah,
is
if you were gonna say what's there
medium?
now, it would be the medium density residential,
Okay,
other than the rural,
Sorry,
than the purple part.
okay, that does make sense.
Yeah, sorry.
Madam Chair, can I just make a comment? And
Please.
that is that mixed use would have to be approved by
Right.
city council.
Yeah.
So it's a separate zone altogether and it would go through the public hearing process.
Yeah, yeah. And mixed use completely separate.
M-
Yeah,
mixed
the-
residential.
The overlay, yes.
Yeah, mixed use is a different
Yeah,
thing.
sorry. Mixed residential overlay is a completely
we're good.
different animal than what we're dealing with here.
I,
Great.
I appreciate your concern. I appreciate the concept that before when that was proposed, that it caused a lot of concern and heartache. I appreciate that and understand that. I think the commission at this point, who's here, understands that need and that concern and are not willing to do an overlay zone.
Thank you, Ray. Chris, you're up.
I would like to bring up, I absolutely love buffer.
Yeah.
The buffers for, for when that time arises. That's always a good thing. And my experience with code enforcement has led me to that. I do understand their density concerns. I think there are some protections that we might be able to look at. There's one question that I do have for staff, if it's okay to ask, and maybe even the legal team. Seems like we open this up for everybody in the community tonight. It's opened up for everybody. And this particular group of neighbors, friends, all took time out of their night to show up for their appropriate concerns. Is there an option that we have that would be able to approve of a specific portion of the general plan tonight and table a specific section of this area?
No, it's better to look at the whole thing, and when the planning commission is ready, then then send it on. Yeah, typically you don't approve.
That's-
It's a good question, but typically not done that way.
Okay. And then with that, I know that the county and the city are completely separate, but it's been brought up. And seeing how some of the traffic concerns could be eliminated with, or at least reduced with, that Como Springs access road. Has there been communications with the county about that at all? And I don't, sorry, I don't know that.
Teresa, have we heard anything recently from Como on access and roads?
Not currently. It's kind of dormant for the last,
And forgive me for not knowing about the whole private issue up there or whatever it is. I'm
Well,
not
I
that
mean,
familiar with it. I walk it every day, but
The idea was to try to bring it back as an actual resort destination. I mean, that goes back about 10 years, and then the landowner about 3 or 4 years ago said he was going to do it, and then nothing ever, there just wasn't the resources, and
I guess
ability
I'm
to make that happen.
mainly just talking about the road part of it.
Oh.
Would be county or
Well,
that
would be county.
that is what my primary concern is with what has been brought up. Whatever their development is between them.
That
and,
right here, 500 East, you're talking about, go past the fairgrounds. It could be, let's just say if there were proposal to further develop Como into something more extensive, then if it's still in the county, then it's completely up to the county. But the city could request that there be upgrades and it function, because it's going to come down Commercial Street and over. That's a much better way. It's the same way kids get to high school now, especially with the light. So
Well, and clearly that's something we could evaluate if there were a proposal in front of us.
yes.
The traffic, yeah. And how that,
And we could even
you.
put on the transportation chapter, just a section of there, just a small thing to ask that be enhanced and improved to bring some of that traffic, the Young Street or the Young Bridge traffic around and connect.
Well, and I don't think that's, well, yeah, if we're coming up that way.
Thanks.
Okay, anything else?
I haven't heard from David.
Right? It's his turn next. Commissioner Griffith, do you have any comments for us?
I don't know that I have anything new that hasn't already been said. I think I would probably echo what's already been said by some of the other planning commission members. I think we understand the concerns and the needs. I feel like we've given this quite a bit of thought, and I feel good about it.
Okay, thank you. So let me ask a couple questions, commissioners. Do we have concerns about any other area in the future land use plan other than this southeast corner?
Hey, Madam Chair, can I just say something on, just for clarification? If you look at the future land use, when we talk about low density residential, medium density residential, our supporting zoning for those that is currently in, is the difference of a low density residential, the smallest lot could be 12,000 square feet. Medium density residential, the smallest lot is 10,000 square feet. So it's a 2,000 square foot difference in the lot sizes. Red Rock, it has R110 in half of it and the other half is R112. So changing to be a low density residential in all that area, existing homes wouldn't meet low density residential. And so just to let you know that look at those, the definition for the future land use of what those are. Just to give a little bit of clarification.
Thank you.
Housing already built would not be able to exist if it was a low density residential. So
Thank you, Teresa. So with that clarification, any other areas of concern that we need to discuss?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. We do very much appreciate everybody coming out to talk about this. Clearly, the squeaky wheel gets the discussion. So thank you for giving us an opportunity to talk about this area. Having said that, is there anything else in the plan? Any of the other proposed changes that we need to discuss, update, modify?
Just thank you for looking at the parks and the trails. I mean, that's a critical piece of at least getting walkability everywhere from someone that uses it all the time. So great job on that.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I walk a ton and I commend the mayor and the city manager and all those people that are active. I think what I see when I walk around town and what's going on by the river and what's going on downtown, like I have a lot of pride. So certainly just express my thanks for you guys making things happen for our town.
Agreed.
Now, a lot of those trails are going to be dependent upon being able to get access over private property, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
even though, yeah, I mean, it's a great idea, but it's going to be limited depending on how much access we can get.
Yeah, absolutely. But as Jake has told us, having the plan in place does make us more eligible for grants and more ready to act when the opportunity comes up. Oh. Okay, so what we are looking to do tonight, our options are to send this, if I'm correct, and correct me if I am not, to send the revised general plan or the updated general plan to the city council with a favorable recommendation, to send it with any changes that we would like to propose, or to table it. Is that correct? So let me just clarify my thinking on this. I am in favor of lower density. However, I don't feel the plan as written precludes us making wise decisions in the future. It's hard to judge on hypotheticals, right? We can make decisions when we have an actual application in front of us. And I think where Red Rock already has homes and lots that would qualify as medium density, I think medium density is not completely inappropriate in that area. So I'm inclined to approve it as it is and just be mindful of things that come before us in the future. That's what I'm thinking. Anybody else have a different opinion before we accept a motion?
You have to call it out.
Right?
I wonder how it's worded on the agenda. Can we actually make a motion? Can we actually make a motion tonight on it? 'Cause on the agenda, it merely says public hearing for the ordinance. It doesn't say motion. Does the agenda wording allow us to make a motion on it?
Go ahead, Gary.
It's just gonna look up the answer is yes, you can.
Okay, okay.
Okay, any further comments? Then we will accept a motion to either make a favorable recommendation to the city council or table it, or whatever else you feel inclined to motion.
Hey, Madam Chair, prior to doing that, resident did come up to me and ask if you would consider reopening the public hearing. I don't know how that works, and so that's Gary.
That would just be whether or not you decide as a commission that you want to reopen this public hearing for additional information. And then a motion would be made the same way it was before and seconded and.
Okay.
you know,
I am willing to entertain a motion to reopen if someone feels inclined to make one.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we reopen public hearing.
Do we have a second? Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, and the public hearing is now reopened. If you have comments, please
Vote on the motion.
step to the, oh, sorry, thank you. All in favor, please indicate. Okay, opposed? We do have one opposed, but motion carries.
Thank you for reopening the public hearing. Again, this is Brett Boss. Hearing some comments, I just wanted to tell you my experience with the whole MRO. And of course, now my mouth is dry.
I would encourage you, Brett, the motion in front of, or the issue in front of us tonight is about the general plan update. It is not about MROs.
Correct.
So if we could stay on topic.
Correct, but I think so let's just say in the past, when higher density was somewhat looking imminent, I met with city council members and they would point to this and say, well, townhomes aren't much more than medium residential. So, and they'd be the only ones there. So everything else around it could be medium. And so what I'm saying is the plan guides where city council goes. And so if you mark it low density and they say, oh, we want to propose an MRO, then the city council is more likely to say, that's low density. We don't have a plan for that. So that's all I'm saying about proposals, and the MRO is the most likely way to get high density housing in any part of the city right now. Okay. So I'm not talking about that in particular case, but I'm talking about what I experienced during that process. Okay. I am very grateful for all your time, and I'm sorry if I come across a little argumentative or whatever, but I'm trying to understand and move forward with things as I understand them. But I do hear this quite a bit, and I have no doubt that everybody receives pressure from the state in comments, in language, in proposed things. But every time I've asked someone to point me to a statute, they have pointed me to one, but it doesn't qualify for our city and county. Our city is too small in a small county. Now, Weber County has a whole different thing because they're a lot bigger county. And that puts them on the map. And a lot of the proposals we've heard that don't even pass the state, they limit them to certain counties, mostly along the Wasatch Front. So, I'm trying to ensure that when the city council does see something that might stretch the zoning, that they would say that's less likely to happen because it's low density. And that's what I'm trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there someone online that would like to speak? Please, yes.
So I am Jill Boss, and when we were reviewing the definitions of medium density and low density on what we had access to online, they were different than what Jake proposed or read to us today. So I wanted to clarify and make sure we are all on the same page and that that information is accurate, that we have the same.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else, since we're open? Okay, do we have a motion to close the pub? Oh, Teresa, was there anyone online who wanted to speak?
Just Mr. Clark. I don't see him raising his hand or anything.
Okay. Then with that, does anyone wish to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Nobody wants to do it, I'll second it.
Very non-committal tonight. All in favor? I cannot see Dave Griffith, but thank you, Dave. Yes, thank you, Ray. And so Jake, would you speak to that question
Yeah,
about the verbiage?
this language on the screen is directly from the document. You go to the city homepage and then it says public hearing, you click on that and then download. If you downloaded the current general plan, then you would have had the old language. But if you click at the document at the top, it says public hearing, you go there, then you can download this, and this is pulled right from it. So it is available.
And it was also on another place on the public meeting. Planning Commission. It says the general plan update for public hearing March 26th. It's also the public, it's also attached in the agenda and packet portion.
And to clarify, the ADUs are accessory dwelling units, if anyone's unfamiliar with that language. So a mother-in-law suite, a built-on apartment, and those we are including in response to state statute, correct?
That was a mandate from the state.
Yeah.
Since you've seen that, that was a mandate from the state.
And this legislation actually mandated detached accessory dwelling units, but we're already good because that's allowed. But we've received hardly any applications. It is not, it's not the latest fashion in terms of what's happening here. Well, almost anywhere. New development is seeing more because it's easier to build that as part of the new, but still it is a small percentage.
Okay. I lost my place. Did we vote to close the hearing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Been a long day. Any further discussion? We will entertain a motion if anyone feels inclined to make one.
Can you go over those one more time that you read?
What your options are?
Yeah.
To recommend, send it to the city council with a favorable recommendation, send it to the city council with any proposed changes, or to table it. And we should probably have a specific reason if we're going to table it, something that we're looking at and we need to gather more information about.
One more question to the staff, if that's okay. You gave this to us with a favorable recommendation, correct?
Correct. And that, based on our last meeting, the planning commission said we feel like this is ready for a public hearing and to have final look at it. And from here, we have a lot of work on ordinances to be doing. That the general plan is the plan to do the work, and so anyway, your job as planning commissioner has a lot of work ahead.
I'm not very familiar with the buffer zone ordinances with the city. Do you, is it pretty strong? Is it?
That's something we can entertain looking into. And that would be at the next level in terms of ordinances. That's not a general plan item. That's a ordinance level. We do require buffering, landscape buffers between RM 15 and single family. We have a landscape buffer and distance setback also between commercial and residential. So we do have a number of buffers, fencing, landscaping distances on some of those when you're going from higher density to a single family.
Are you talking about buffers, home buffers, density buffers?
And I've never even heard of density buffers in between residential, so that's why I was asking.
It just comes down to the concept of the most dense is commercial, then you go to maybe apartments, and then you go to something less dense than that, and then maybe single family homes on 6,000 square foot lots, and then a little higher. So it's just increasing, and it depends on what you start with. If you start with 10,000 square foot lots, then the next level would be 12 and kind of buffers. The idea is that you'd have the same size lot across from yours. And then the next lot over, the developer would develop, this is 10, this is 6, this is commercial, that type of thing.
Okay.
Gonna be here all night, gentlemen.
I think all of us have given some deep thought into it. I'm the newest member. I would like one of you to make a motion on it. I don't even know where to start on it.
Or if no one wants to make a motion, I would love to hear why. What do we still need to settle?
I make a motion, I move that we accept the general plan as is and move it on to the city council with a favorable approval.
Okay. So
I'll
we have
second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to forward this to the city council with a favorable recommendation. Any discussion on the motion before
A
we
favorable
vote?
recommendation to do what?
To approve,
Yeah, so
adopt?
yeah, to approve and adopt. And then the city council, they'll take their time looking at it and they have the final approval.
And based on that, I second it.
Okay, we actually already had a second, but
Okay.
good to know. Thank you. We have a third. Okay. Barring any further discussion on the motion, we will vote. All in favor, please indicate. It appears to be unanimous. Thank you very much. Anything else we need to cover tonight, Jake? We don't have anything else on the agenda, then our meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much to everybody who came and participated. Thank you.
We got punch and cookies anywhere?
What?
No, that's good. Those are good questions. The other way you can do that, the buffer is with the development agreement.